Let's dive right into today's explainer because we are unpacking what is honestly a modern corporate thriller. It perfectly captures those profound anxieties we're all feeling in these new tech-driven workplaces. We're looking at a case study involving an AI meeting transcript that did the unthinkable. It wrongly blamed the absolute quietest person in the room for an incredibly risky executive approval. I want you to really picture this scenario. Imagine you're Sophia Lane. You're a brand new operations coordinator, just trying to find your footing at the company. You sit in on this high-stakes, tense executive meeting. You're carefully taking your notes, you barely say a single word. And then the next morning, you open your email, and there it is, the official AI-generated transcript naming you, the junior employee, as the one who greenlit a potentially disastrous decision. The shock is immediate, right? But as we dig into this, you're going to see this isn't just a story about some random software bug. This is a massive deep dive into accountability, office politics, and what actually happens when these complex systems designed to make our lives easier are weaponized to quietly rewrite history. So the absolutely crucial question we have to start with is this: does AI actually know how to lie? Look, when an AI generates a flawed summary or mislabels a speaker, our very first instinct is to blame the algorithm. We just shrug our shoulders, call it a glitch or a hallucination, and we move on. It's so easy to blame the machine because it requires zero human accountability. But this specific incident, it forces us to ask a much darker question. Are we looking at a standard, run-of-the-mill tech error, or are we staring at a deliberate corporate cover-up that's using digital tools as a highly convenient shield? It really demands that we stop staring blindly at the machine and start focusing intensely on the human hands that are actually guiding it. And that brings us to this brilliant insight from strategy lead Maya Carter, which totally captures the insidious nature of modern office sabotage. She says, the dangerous documents never look dangerous first. Think about the psychology there for a second. Why is a boring administrative document so incredibly dangerous? Well, because absolutely no one questions a transcript. We've been conditioned to assume that machines are inherently objective. The whole narrative here doesn't start with some dramatic screaming match in a boardroom. It starts with a seemingly boring AI document sitting quietly on a polished desk before the office has even fully woken up. It looks standard, it looks completely harmless, but beneath that boring surface, it's hiding a dangerous lie, setting up this slow burn tension where an executive erasing their own responsibility is completely disguised as a harmless tech typo. All right, moving into section 1, the official explanation. The transcript is out, the blame has landed squarely on Sophia Lane's shoulders, and the entire office is basically holding its breath. So how does leadership respond? Well, exactly how you'd expect an old-school culture to react to a new-school problem, with incredibly polished, carefully constructed corporate language designed to just smooth things over without fixing a single thing. Transformation Officer Adrian Vale smoothly claims that, automated speaker labels are imperfect but operationally useful. He throws around comforting buzzwords like alignment, healing, and business continuity. It sounds remarkably reasonable. But beneath that slick excuse is a much darker reality. The AI isn't just making a random error here. It is being actively and maliciously used to erase an executive's responsibility and dump a massive amount of career risk right onto the newest, most vulnerable employee in the room. But here is where Sophia Lane does something truly incredible. She flat out refuses to play the scapegoat. The company had recently rolled out a memory charter, which was a policy meant to guarantee an accurate record of decisions. Knowing she's technically protected by this charter, she doesn't just accept the story coming from the top. It takes immense courage for a junior employee to question the executive narrative, but she does it by reading the fine print that everyone else is too busy, or honestly too terrified to read. She looks at the hidden metadata, she meticulously checks the routing notes, she asks the incredibly inconvenient, yet undeniably crucial question: who actually changed this record, and exactly who approved that specific change? She proves right then and there that a record-first culture only actually works if people have the genuine courage to read the record. Section 2. Tracing the footsteps of the investigation. Sophia's questions light a total fire, and the team, led by Maya Carter, steps in. But notice what they do. They don't storm into the executive suite shouting and pointing fingers because they know in a battle of opinions, the executives usually win. Instead, they start building a methodical, airtight case. Maya doesn't argue. She builds a proof map. First up, identify the object, the transcript itself. Second, the owner, who physically generated it. Third, the timestamp, when exactly was it altered in the system. Fourth, the beneficiary, who specifically gains from Sophia taking the fall. And finally, the missing approval. Where is the exact gap in the system's logic?
Maya knows people will instinctively deny involvement to save their own skin, but systems hesitate. Systems always leave a trail, and by organizing the data this way, she takes a confusing, emotional mess of office politics and turns it into a clear, undeniable path of evidence. Of course, the pushback arrives almost immediately. But as we often see in highly toxic corporate environments, pressure rarely introduces itself honestly. It almost always shows up disguised as gentle, paternalistic career advice. You know the drill. Executives pulling Sophia aside in the hallway, putting an arm around her shoulder, urging her not to turn an inconsistency into a crisis, quietly warning her about her long-term stability at the company. It is a classic intimidation tactic, masked as mentorship. But Meyer reinforces the team's resolve with a truly powerful statement. Truth is not damage, hiding it was. Uncovering the truth, no matter how profoundly uncomfortable it makes the leadership, is literally the only legitimate way to move a company forward. Moving to Section 3, Digital Evidence. Data doesn't lie.
So now we are stepping out of the murky realm of human motives and straight into the cold, hard facts. This is where IT audit specialist Jordan Price and executive assistant Nina Ross step up. Nina makes this crucial realization. The invisible administrative work of an office always sees everything. The people orchestrating this cover-up treated the background tasks as entirely invisible, completely forgetting that background work always has foreground records. Think about it for a second. Rooms have to be physically booked in a system. Drafts have to be printed and routed through a server. Calls have to be meticulously scheduled on digital calendars. Nina uses these mundane, everyday administrative trails to prove that the hidden truth is much larger and much more orchestrated than some spontaneous AI transcript error. And here is exactly how they mathematically proved the lie. Jordan executes a brilliant, methodical, three-step sequence of raw log analysis. Step 1, he pulls the raw audio waveform directly from the meeting's recording. Step 2, he meticulously extracts the isolated data from the specific room microphones embedded in the ceiling. And step 3, which is absolutely the climax of this investigation, he cross-references that precise microphone data with the calendar seating chart. By mapping exactly which specific microphone picked up the voice to where people were officially scheduled to sit, he definitively proves that the executive spoke those words, not Sophia. The AI didn't hallucinate the speaker label at all. The evidence clearly, undeniably shows the label was manually corrected by a human after the transcript was already exported. As Jordan Price so perfectly sums it up, this is not suspicion. This is sequence. And that completely demystifies the power of digital forensics. The proof wasn't some dramatic, cinematic computer hack with green code raining down a dark screen while a timer ticked down. No way. It was just a logical, incredibly patient sequence showing exactly who logged in, who deliberately changed a specific text field, and who stood to benefit from the lie. It strips the emotion, the intimidation, and the corporate spin entirely out of the equation. It leaves the executives with absolutely nowhere to hide. Section 4, Human Responsibility, Fixing the System. So the truth is out. The executives are caught red-handed. Now, in a lot of companies, this is the exact moment where a private deal gets struck. The executive quietly apologizes behind closed doors, the transcript is silently fixed, and the whole ugly mess is swept right under the rug. But Maya and her team flatly refuse a private fix. They know a private fix only makes executives comfortable while leaving all future employees exposed to the exact same danger. They demand public accountability and systemic repair. So the newly empowered Trust Committee implements 3 concrete rules to change the actual architecture of the company. First up, original audio retention is now mandatory, meaning transcripts can always be verified against the raw source. Second, AI summaries must automatically include speaker label confidence scores, explicitly flagging potential inaccuracies. And most importantly, third, human sign-off is explicitly required before any AI-generated summary can enter the official company record as evidence. They built a permanent infrastructure to ensure AI can never be weaponized without verification ever again.
Which brings us right to the core lesson of this entire case study. AI can help a record. It cannot replace the duty to verify who actually said the words. As we all rush to adopt these automated workplace tools, chasing efficiency and speed, we simply cannot outsource our integrity or our accountability to an algorithm. A machine can transcribe, it can summarize, and it can label. But the true duty of care, the fundamental responsibility to speak up when something is wrong, and the moral obligation to verify truth, those remain entirely, completely human jobs.
As we wrap up this deep dive explainer today, I really want to leave you with a final provocative thought. How does your office verify the truth? If a critical AI summary blamed you for something you didn't do tomorrow morning, would your company culture instinctively rely on the loudest, most powerful voice in the room? Or would it have the digital forensics, the established processes, and the systemic integrity to protect you? It is a genuinely crucial question for the future of work. I hope this analysis has given you the insight to look a little closer at the invisible records and the quiet systems governing your own workplace.